right, so we asked the question before the break because CBS Sports did this thing with players, NFL players, who it's now or never. And Lions are in a really no Lions made the list. They're in a really healthy place. But who on this team do you think they have to produce this year or they might cut ties? 248-539-9797. We'll take your texts on that. If you want to call and discuss it, feel free. But Stoney, who would you put on that list?
Number 1, Levi Onwuzurike.
Okay. I could see that.
The only other guys I can even think about is also the guy they drafted in the second round. That's Josh Pascal. And now he's been injured as well.
I saw one on I think it was The Athletic, that mentioned a guy on offense. And it's a player that I have touted as a sleeper that was worth it. Tight end James Mitchell. He's been around for a while.
Good point, yeah.
Hasn't really made an impact. He's not the number 2 tight end. And
you're right.
You know, I think his contract is up. And it's funny, if you look at his stats, now he was hurt, but over a 2-year span, his catches and yards per catch were like Brock Bowers type numbers. He was a big play tight end. Now, given not in 1 year, it's a big difference over 2 years.
Right.
But the big play ability was what intrigued me. You know, felt like maybe kind of a deep threat from the tight end spot, but hasn't really done much here. I still hold out hope that he's one of those players that gets in the league, develops, gets to be in his mid-20s, and bang, he takes off. He's got 2 years left. So,
well, you know who else could be in that list? And I don't think he will be because I think he's going to be pretty damn good.
Who's that?
J-Mo.
Wow.
Think about it. If he doesn't play well, that's, year 3, right? His option would be,
it's the funny thing is,
like, I wrote down 4 names and he wasn't one of them and it just hit me.
Yeah. I don't know if he'd be there yet, but he'd certainly, at this point with Jameson Williams, between the mini camp hype and what Dan Campbell has said about him, what Jared Goff has said about him, it's almost to the point where it's not a given, but it feels like we're on the brink of a huge breakout season.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I don't anticipate this happening. I think he's going to be really good. But for some reason, if he, gets the dropsies all the time or is just not productive, then it would be, sorry later. The other 2 I mentioned or wrote down, one is he's not that big of a player as DPJ.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is Michael Badgley.
Yeah, DPJ is a free agent after this year.
Right.
So if he doesn't do much, I think technically he probably fits the exact definition of a now or never guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he doesn't do much, why would they bring him back?
Right.
The number 1 ticket text answer is Jameson Williams, by the way. So,
is it really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're not saying they're not saying it good or bad. They're just saying now's the time for J-Mo to make his mark. I mean, that's as far as the early returns on the ticket text. And I'll send them over, Doug. But
I guess what's interesting about that is I don't know that I would say like or never, because that's what we're talking now or never. Like if it doesn't happen this year, people are believing that it's never going to happen.
Well, it's been well documented why he hasn't got the opportunity fully yet because of the injury, the gambling, all that stuff. And this year, and even a roadblock of having Josh Reynolds in front of you, none of that exists this year. He's not injured, he's not suspended, knock on wood, and there's no Josh Reynolds. He showed flashes last year. He showed flashes in games that meant something. The Niners game, he scored 2 touchdowns. One was an explosive on end around. He's got the opportunity, so I think people expect it from him. But usually the third year is when a receiver traditionally comes into his own. He's got his feet wet. He's got his workout routine. He's become a professional. His body, he's grown into it. He knows the route tree better. This is usually the year for wideouts to break.
It feels like I'm approaching it as a given. you know, and maybe they're right. Maybe if at the end of this year hasn't happened, but it just feels like such a given to me. Like if a guy really worked that hard and did everything that has been asked of him, and the results are showing up in practice, and they see the improvement, barring an injury derailing him, it feels like it's now more than never. But let's go to DJ in Detroit. You're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hello, DJ.
My dog, what's up, man? You all right?
We're doing great, DJ.
Hey.
Yeah, what's going on, Stoney, man? Good to hear from you too, man. It's been a while. So, I have James Houston, so I've been a big fan of James Houston.
That's a good one.
Of James. Yeah, but I really think, you know, when you read what they be saying about how they be trying to move him to Mike linebacker, he's really not getting that. And he had that breakout 2 years ago, but then the injuries. I think it might be James Houston because I don't know where they're at with him. Like I can't get a real good sense.
Well, look, we've seen guys along the defensive line that we thought were going to be solutions. Names like Kerry Hyder or Charles Harris, where we're just like, wow, they found a guy. And I hate to think that James Houston might fall in line with that, but it feels like there's competition there. They signed a veteran that's probably going to get the bulk of the snaps. And then they're going to basically say, go beat Matthew Betts and Pascal and the Mitchell Agude kid that seemed to turn some heads during minicamp. Is Kaminsky going to play there? It's an interesting question.
You see what I'm saying? And the versatility that they covered, he's not really catching on in linebacker. So I think it might be him. Can I chime in on what you guys were just talking about real quick?
Yep.
Because it's ironic. Me and my guys was actually talking about this morning, and one of my homeboys made a good point. J-Mo might be in the Chris Carter situation. Whereas, remember, Chris Carter bombed out in Philly, and then he went somewhere. It was like, obviously, a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying it's going to be a Hall of Famer, but what J-Mo does well, man, obviously, is the 9 routes and that sort of thing. It's not what we do. I really see, man, when you go to them games, that kid got it, and he's getting better. But I just think here, our system with LaPorta and with Brown, what we do, I don't see him thriving here, but I think he'll go somewhere else, and he's going to be the one who'll be like, dog.
Well, first of all, Chris Carter's problem in Philly had to do with more off the field, drugs. Right, exactly. Because all he did was catch touchdowns, right?
Right.
But with J-Mo, what I think we're overlooking here is in those, for the downfield plays, you're probably right, DJ, but what he gives them is like in the red zone, he's so good at getting open in the end zone. Because of his speed, and he does run pretty good routes down there.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I'll let you guys go. We will miss him, and here's why. And I've mentioned this to Doug and Gator before, and I know you be there too, Stoney, so I'm preaching to the choir. But when you go to the games, a lot of those underneath routes that St. Brown and LaPorta catch and go 20 and 30 yards underneath, it's because when you go to the games, J-Mo has pushed them safeties and them corners back.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kid be pushing and opening up everything underneath, but that goes unseen and it's not on the stat sheet.
There was one play.
We would miss that.
There was one play, DJ, that I thought was really telling, and I hope it turns out that it's just part of the growth curve for both Goff and J-Mo and working together. It was against Baltimore. J-Mo is loose deep. Goff lets a pass go. J-Mo's looking over his left shoulder, and the ball's delivered over his right shoulder. And I don't know if that was a reflection on Goff or a reflection on J-Mo or it could have been just a bad pass. But sometimes that stuff is, I have to throw it over the shoulder away from the safety. You have to look over that shoulder. And I think there's a lot of meat on that bone for the deep game that, when we brought it up with Goff is ready to challenge us on him. When people say he doesn't have the ability to throw the deep ball. So it would be a fascinating development if they could improve that aspect.